And I'm really happy that the organizers of this Evento Numismático Madrid thought it to be important to have an international session here. Because in my personal opinion, there is nothing more than cooperating internationally. Cooperation is the core of numismatics. We all can learn from each other, especially in a situation like today, where all coin collectors and all coin dealers face kind of problems with the academic world. And I think in that time it's good to exchange opinions and to hear what worked in one country and what might work in your country as well. And so I'm really happy that we have this kind of international exchange. That's also the reason why I've chosen the topic, museums, the coin market, and the public, insights into a fruitful cooperation. Because it's the core of numismatics to cooperate over the field. And it's so important to know the needs of each other. So I wanted to have this really internationally. I wanted to have guests from 2 different countries. One is here. Unfortunately, Klaus Wondrowetz, who is the head of the coin department in Vienna, was not able to make it. Not that he didn't want, but the plane brought him to Munich, and there was the end of it. He had to go back by train to Vienna because the flight that would have brought him to Madrid would have been, I think, in 3 hours. So no chance for him to make it. And this is something very new. In the last 2 weeks, I have heard of so many persons who are not able to make it and to make the flights and to get to a certain point at the real time. The times are changing, and we see that we always have new things we have to adapt. And especially in times that are changing, it's very important to cooperate, to stay together. And that's the reason why we will have this session, why we will have various groups of numismatists who will discuss and who will talk about things, about how we can better cooperate. We have it a little bit, the session will be a little bit about the past, the present, and the future. I will start with a short lecture on the past of the numismatic world, about a time when coin dealers and scholars were identical, and when all coin collectors were also antiquarians and working scientifically. We will have a project that happened just a few years ago of the present, which will be told by Klaus Wondrowetz, where he showed how he, as a museum, cooperated with a collector and a coin dealer to secure an important collection for the Vienna coin cabinet. And we will have something about the future, because Andrew Brown will tell us about the portable antiquity scheme, which is a fantastic solution that functions in England and might also function in other countries. For me, the portable antiquity scheme is the future. Just one practical thing before I start. We will not do all the questions after the lectures, but we will do all the questions for all the lectures after we have all finished, in order to make sure that we can make the best use of the time and that everybody has the same time range to speak about. So afterwards we have a little break, and then we have the podium discussion. So I will start, and I will talk about how the coin trade started. It's a glance into the past when scholars still dealt in coins. So wait a second, because I'm not really a technical person, so I hope everything will work. For the next 20 minutes, I'll take you back into Germany's numismatic past, to the time around 1600 to be precise. You know, times were different then. Kings, dukes, cities intensified their access to the resources generated by their subjects by applying arguments of the theological debate about whether there was only one or many ways to God. The sciences developed extremely fast. Medicine, astronomy, as well as numismatics and archaeology experienced a huge boost around 1600. Today, we tend to look down our noses at the state of knowledge of that period. For example, we like to ridicule the foolishness of those who allowed alchemists to con them out of money. We know that no one can turn lead into gold. But in 1600, how should people know that? At that time, chemistry was making great strides. Alchemists, we would now call them chemists, produced substances that did not exist in nature. They took tartrate and saltpeter and turned it into potash, a new substance which dissolved dirt almost by itself. If alchemists were clever enough to do such a thing, why shouldn't they find a substance that could turn lead into gold? Do not forget, today we believe that spaceships will one day enable us to conquer distant galaxies, just because we managed to send a few men to the moon. Are you wondering how that is related to numismatics? I see your faces. Well, I want to illustrate how problematic it is to judge history in retrospect. We can read about the outcome. We can see the results and the solutions that have worked. Therefore, we tend to feel superior to our predecessors who had to find their solution the hard way by trial and error. In medieval times, our predecessors created a wonderful metaphor for this. They thought themselves to be dwarfs standing at the shoulders of giants. And therefore, I'd like to take you back to the early days of the RIC. If you collect Roman coins, you'll be familiar with this abbreviation. It is short for Roman imperial coinage and refers to the ultimate catalog of all coins in the Roman Empire. The RIC has predecessors too. One of them was written by an eminent scholar named Adolf Ocko. He lived in Augsburg in southern Germany and was a physician, a pharmacist, a numismatist, a historian, a coin dealer, and much more. In 1579, he published the first edition of his catalog of Roman coins from Pompey the Great to Heraclius. His book became a standard reference and many new editions were published, the last in Milan in 1730. We may read today some coins' inscriptions differently, and we may assign some coins to a different ruler. Nevertheless, the work of compiling such a catalog has not changed at all. It's absolutely the same. Adolf Ocko cataloged all the Roman coins known to him based on the collections to which he had personal access, whose material had been published, or about which he had received information from other numismatists. He described the material, the pictures of obverse and reverse, gave the legends as well as the source of information. Sometimes he even added a little comment. And when you look at the RIC or the RPC, it's exactly the same today. This has not changed at all. Occo named his work Coins of the Roman Emperors. I'm not showing you its first edition from 1572, but the second edition, published in 1601. It was published in Augsburg, and the interesting thing why I show it to you is it was financed by a coin collector. Hans von Schellenberg covered a substantial part of the printing costs. This is the second name you will need to remember for the duration of this presentation. First Occo, then Hans von Schellenberg. He was an imperial knight of the Holy Roman Empire and lived at Randegg, near Lake Constance. I will later show you a map. His contemporaries like to call him the scholar. Modern historians would rather describe him as a coin collector. In 1601, the same Hans von Schellenberg presented this book, and I mean this very book I've shown to you, to another enthusiastic coin collector called Georg Sebastian Harzer. Are you wondering how I know that? I've read the correspondence between Hans von Schellenberg and Johann Jakob Rüger. And that brings us to the third person of my story. Johann Jakob Rüger lived in Schaffhausen, also in southern Germany, and he was a minister, occasionally earned some extra money as a coin dealer, and is still held in high esteem in Schaffhausen for writing the city's first chronicle. He is celebrated as one of the most eminent citizens of Schaffhausen, owning his own monument. Well, we know from the correspondence between Rüger and Schellenberg that Schellenberg had given, at the intercession of Rüger, considerable financial support to Occo, and Occo in return dedicated his catalogue to Hans von Schellenberg. So we have this cooperation I'm talking about a lot between coin collectors, coin dealers, scholars, around 1600 already. And at that time, it was even more intense. I will tell you more about that. So Hans von Schellenberg bought several of the 500 printed copies, and he had his coat of arms printed in 3 of them. Et voila! You can see his very coat of arms in this very copy owned by the Zurich Central Library from the estate of Georg Sebastian Harzer. And we know that Harzer and Schellenberg were in close contact. They were collector friends. And this brings us to the actual topic of my presentation. The fruitful cooperation that existed between all areas of numismatics at that time, or let's put it a little bit differently. Modern categories such as scholars, coin dealers, or collectors did not apply to numismatists who lived around 1600 like Occo, Rüger, or Schellenberg. Each of them was active in all 3 fields. Occo was an important scholar, but he also collected coins and did what coin dealers are doing today. He bought and sold coins. The same was true for Rüger, who did scholarly work but also collected and dealt in coins and antiques. And although Schellenberg did not publish academic works himself, his research was published by Occo and Rüger in their own books. As imperial knight, Schellenberg obviously did not trade coins, but he used them as diplomatic gift, thus gaining not money, but favor and goodwill. so interesting. Where does it? Found it. So, how did it work in practice? Hans von Schellenberg's letters give us a good idea about that. Let's start with the coin trading business of Ocko. He lived in Augsburg, which was at that time, and here you have the card I promised to you, it was the trading center with excellent connections to Italy at that time. Augsburg is between Munich and Stuttgart. I know you know where this is because you all are following the football EM. So it's directly in the middle between it. And that was then the trading center with Italy. Therefore, he had coins could be bought very easily at Augsburg at that time because it was so closely connected with Italy. And therefore, he bought in Augsburg the coins and offered them to rich clients. He normally sent out descriptions. But Schellenberg didn't trust his judgment because he thought Ocko not to be capable to really see what was genuine and what was not genuine. Therefore, Ocko had to send all the coins directly to Schellenberg when he wanted to make a deal. A Schaffhausen merchant house provided the weekly mail connection between Augsburg and Schaffhausen. Ocko sent his parcels the parcels of coins to Rüger, who lived in Schaffhausen. So you see the end of the red arrow, that is Schaffhausen, where all the coins were sent to. And from there, the coins were transmitted by a local runner to the castle where Schellenberg lived. So, if Schellenberg bought then the coins, Rüger collected the money and transferred it with a post service to Ocko. If Schellenberg was not willing to buy, Rüger looked for another client. We can prove that at least one piece Schellenberg rejected ended up in the collection of another collector Rüger supplied with coins and is today in the coin collection of Stuttgart. Rüger earned money from his work as intermediary, as both Ocko and Schellenberg regularly sent him gifts for his work in form of cash, ancient coins, books, or goods. So I love one concrete example because it's so close to the way we are working with coins. In October of 1602, Ocko was sending a parcel of coins. It was a lot, and he asked for the complete lot a certain amount of coins. So Schellenberg saw the lot, and as it happens often, it was a multiple lot consisting of many coins, and he looked through the coins and he said, okay, don't need that, don't need that, don't need that, these I want. And of course he chose the best coins, surprise, surprise. But he took the price, made the division through the number of coins, and paid only the price of the coins he took out, reciproc to the whole amount. So when Rüger realized that, he was a kind of because it was the best coins. And so they had to negotiate to and fro, and we have the letters when Schellenberg said, no, can't be. Rüger says, yes, it can be. And so they finally find a price, and I tell you, it's the same as if you would watch a coin collector and a coin dealer over a table at a coin show discussing the price of a coin. So this was about Ocko's and Rüger's business as coin dealers. Let's now come to the academic work of Hans von Schellenberg. Well, there was a reason why his contemporaries called him Hans the Scholar. He did research in the field of genealogy, but was also very knowledgeable in history and numismatics. His library then was counted among the largest in the region. Although Hans von Schellenberg did not publish himself, we find traces of his research in the books of other scholars. Rüger used his genealogic studies, and Ocko benefited from Schellenberg's numismatic knowledge. As this is an evento numismatico, I will talk, of course, about the traces of Schellenberg's research in Ocko's numismatic book. We know from the letters that Hans von Schellenberg informed Ocko about the coins that were missing in the first edition of his catalogue. For example, he is talking about this special coin type, which was here in the second edition added to the catalogue, a denarius of Galba with the reverse Roma Renaissance. On this page, the imperial knight Hans von Schellenberg is even mentioned by name as the man who informed the author about two Celtic coins which Ocko attributed to the kings Cottius and Vocaranus. It reads in translation, "This gold coin is to be found at the imperial knight Hans von Schellenberg and was recently discovered in the province of Narbonensis. And Welser, this is another famous coin collector, scholar, and head of a famous trading house at that time. And Welser claims that the piece is related to it." So Schellenberg did not only describe coins for Ocko, he did also archaeological research. After all, a Roman bath was located as his estate in Hüfingen, ancient Brigobanis, the ruins of which still exist today. He carried out excavations there. Of course, not as professionally as today's researchers would want him to do that. But it was in line with the knowledge of his time. He consulted leading antiquarians, and he asked his artistically gifted nephew to draw a plan of the excavated site. He did not publish the results himself, but he informed Ocko and Rüger about them in detailed letters, and those two fed his findings into their antiquarian network so it could be used in the research of other antiquarians. And I'd like to give you an example of such an excavation report written by Schellenberg. On 10 December 1605, he wrote about uncovering the floor of the thermal baths. "I had it uncovered on an area as large as a whole table," and please think tables were bigger than today, "as a whole table, and had it washed with water. And I found that it was not only carefully set with mortar, but also had a very beautiful appearance because they, the bricks, were set in triangles." And you certainly see this shape here, the triangle form. "I brought home almost an entire handcart full of these bricks. Where the bricks start is a very thick small wall, but like the floor, this wall is a cluster below the ground." I'm well aware that Andrew and today's archaeologists might cringe at the thought of that knight removing bricks in a handcart to send them to all his antiquarian correspondents. Okay. But it's only because there has been an interest in ancient buildings since the Renaissance that excavation methods were developed. Yes, in 1600 they did not meet today's standards. So what? Back then, cupping and bloodletting was still considered the most effective medication. And we have got farther now. By the way, Schellenberg's interpretation of the building is not up to today's standard either. He thought it was a pagan temple or a Jewish synagogue because he had found Roman cremation pits nearby, which he believed to be evidence of Jewish burials. And yes, he was also unaware that ground levels rise over the centuries. He explained in the same letter why the ruins of the city of Rome were to be found above and below the street level. Besides, the pagans built just as much underground as on it, as you can certainly see if you examine the ruins in Rome. In summer, they, the Romans, lived underground. In winter, they went upstairs. We may find this amusing today. But that's easy when you have 400 years of research to rely on. So I will stop now because 20 minutes is not enough. I have to stop, but I would like to leave you with one more thought. It's not for nothing that the term numismatists is used not only for scholars in numismatics and for curators of coin cabinets, but also for coin dealers and collectors. We all are numismatists, no matter what subfield we work in, as long as our work is up to a certain standard. Therefore, it's a sign of ignorance and arrogance to stigmatize certain categories of numismatists. There are just as many coin enthusiasts among collectors and dealers who are committed to numismatics and the protection of cultural property as there are among academics and museum curators. Collectors and dealers may simply have a different way of looking at the world sometimes because they are confronted with different problems than scholars, archaeologists, and curators. So if we really want to achieve something good for numismatics, we can only succeed if we overcome the borders between these fields and work together. Unfortunately, today, there are arrogant people who do not want to admit that coin collecting, the coin trade, scholars and archaeologists have one common root, which is a shared enthusiasm for the past. To me, these people are nothing more than dwarfs who have forgotten that they are standing on the shoulders of the same giant as all other numismatists. Thank you for your attention. So, now I switch my role. I'm back to to present you the next PowerPoint. As I told you, Klaus Wondrowetz couldn't come. He's an archaeologist, he's a numismatist, and he has been since 2008 curator for ancient coins at the Kunsthistorische Museum in Vienna, which is among the most important and leading collections, numismatic collections, in the whole numismatic world. He is the head of this eminent coin collection since 2021. He has been very, very successful in what he is doing. And one of his big success has been the acquisition of the Lind-Peintner collection, and he will report how he made this acquisition possible by the cooperation and collaboration with the coin trade and coin collectors. As he couldn't come due to, I told you, travel issues, he has this morning recorded his section so we can hear his lecture, not live, but nearly live.